Hello all, welcome to our channel. Here we are providing all the relevant materials prescribed in the syllabus for UPSC, EPFC, AO examination, and in my videos you can see the complete presentation of Indian art and culture prescribed for the exam. I'm Shilpa Nagaraju and I'll be presenting the complete Indian art and culture lessons in our channel. So please like our channel and subscribe to our channel and forward our videos to your friends and colleagues and also promote us in various social medias. Please leave us your messages and what are your expectations from our channel in the message. So a few words about me. I have 6 years teaching experience online as well as offline. I've completed my master's in public administration and pursuing my PhD. I've given UPSC CSE interview and qualified UGC NET. I have 6 years experience in the government sector. Today's lesson is about colonial architecture and we will study about the colonial architecture for your examination. The colonization of India has had a great impact on its architecture as well. Like all other aspects of society, the colonization of India also has marked a new chapter in Indian architecture. Though the Dutch, the Portuguese, and the French made their presence felt through their buildings, but it was the English who had a lasting impact on architecture of India. Colonial architecture plays an important role in making of Indian history. In the beginning of the colonial rule, there were attempts at creating authority through classical prototypes. In its later phase, the colonial architecture culminated into what is called the Indo-Sasanic architecture. Let's see how the European influences have been seen in our colonial architecture. So, India had a great history of architecture. The arrival of Europeans to India further enriched the architectural traditions of our country. It saw the synthesis of the indigenous architectural traditions of India with the European architectural styles. The colonial architecture exhibited itself through institutional, civic, and utilitarian buildings, such as post offices, railway stations, rest houses, and government buildings. First, let's see what is the influence of Portuguese in Indian architecture. So, Portuguese established impressive churches in Iberian style of architecture, for example, the churches of Goa. Francis Church at Cochin, built in 1510, is believed to be the first church built by the Europeans in India. The Portuguese used bricks as the main building material along with wooden roofs and stairs. Many of the early architecture of the Portuguese are manifested in churches, cathedrals, and schools. These churches were built in the Iberian style. Western India, especially Goa and Daman and Diu, have seen the maximum influence of Portuguese colonization. They began by constructing trading terminals and warehouses along the coast, which were subsequently transformed into fortified cities. They also imported the notion of patio homes and the Baroque style, which were established in Europe in the late 16th century to symbolize the church's strength. To produce a dramatic effect, it featured extensive, complex, and theatrical design and necessitated the employment of clashing colors. Some of the prominent construction of this period includes the Sea Cathedral in Goa, with its 3 stories and Baroque style reminds one of the late Renaissance architecture, which was built in 1619 AD and is one of the most prominent structures of Portuguese architecture. It was constructed in the late Gothic architecture of Portuguese style. It contains a big bell that is also known as the Golden Bell. So, on the right, you can see the Sea Cathedral in Goa. The next is the Basilica of Bom Jesus, Goa, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site that was finished in 1604 AD in the Baroque style. It houses the relics of Saint Francis Xavier. So this is the Basilica of Bom Jesus. The St. Paul's Church in Diu was finished in 1610 AD and is built in the Baroque style. On the shore of Diu Island, Diu Fort was erected in 1535 AD, and there is a lighthouse on the fort's walls as well as cannons. Within the fort complex, there are three churches, that is St. Thomas Church, St. Paul's Church, and Church of St. Francis of Assisi. So here on the right, you can see the St. Paul's Church in Diu. The Thalauim St. Anne's Church in Goa was created in the Baroque style and completed in 1695 AD. Other famous Portuguese monuments in India are the Bandel Church in West Bengal on the banks of the river Hooghly, in Mumbai the Mad Fort, Castella di Aguada, and St. John's Baptist Church are structures that remain from the Portuguese colonial rule. Next is the French architecture in India. Parisian architectural styles can be seen in various places in India. The French architecture made use of local raw materials and took into account the climatic conditions of the place. The French shutter windows, carvings on the archways, and narrow street fronts were the French style. Monuments of this style can be seen in Puducherry, Bengal, Karaikal, Mahe, etc. The French grid patterns, clear sectors, and perpendicular streets are the three distinct features that comprise the plan of the French towns. Some of the noted buildings and monuments bearing French style include Statue of Govan of Arc at Dumas Street, Lee Cafe, Murray Building, a Legayan for veteran soldiers. French brought with them the notion of urban city planning. The Cartesian grid layouts and scientific architectural designs were used to build the French colonies of Puducherry and Chandannagore, which is now called as Chandannagore of West Bengal. As a display of authority, they constructed massive structures. They also established the notion of faceless architecture, which is characterized by a basic facade devoid of embellishment or design, similar to modern structures. The coastal cities of Mahe in Kerala, Karaikal in Tamil Nadu, and Yanam were established by the French in the Andhra Pradesh. Puducherry's Sacred Heart Church and Chandannagar's Sacred Heart Church are two examples of French architecture in India. For example, you can see here the Puducherry Sacred Heart Church and the Chandannagar Sacred Heart Church. The next is British architecture in India. The British followed various architectural styles, that is the Gothic, Imperial, Christian, Palladian, and Victorian being the prominent. Britishers used red sandstone and coarse limestone as the main building material. The Palladian style was sought to be introduced by the British officer in the 18th century. The famous example of a building of this style is Constantia, which was erected by General Martin at Lucknow. In the 19th century, there grew a movement to combine the best elements from India and Western architecture, and the pioneer of this movement was F.S. Grouse. The museum at Jaipur and Moor Market in Chennai are examples of this form of architecture. Sardar Ram Singh, a master builder of Punjab, designed the Central Museum and Senate House at Lahore, which is in Pakistan. Whitted designed the Gateway of India in Mumbai, borrowing several elements of the Mughal style. The Victoria Terminus Station in Mumbai is an example of Victorian Gothic revival architecture in India. deriving themes from Indian traditional architecture and was designed by F.W. Stevens. The Gothic style of building was introduced by the British, which fused with Indian architecture to create the Indo Gothic architectural style. After 1911, a new architectural style called as New Roman architecture evolved. The next is the Indo Gothic style or the Victorian style. Before that, please have a look at the Gateway of India in Mumbai. Victoria Terminus Station in Mumbai. So, the Victorian style of architecture was a unique combination of Indian, Persian, and Gothic architectural elements. The following are some of the characteristics of Indo Gothic style. The structures were extraordinarily huge and intricately constructed. The arches were pointed, unlike the curved arches of the Indo Islamic era. One of the distinguishing elements of the Victorian design was the use of wide windows. It followed sophisticated structural engineering requirements in Britain and featured a crucified ground design. Steel, iron, and poured concrete became popular. Victoria Memorial in Kolkata, Gateway of India and Mumbai, and so on are some of the examples. So, this is the Victorian Memorial in Kolkata. The next is the Neo Roman design. Following World War I, the British Raj built in the Neo Roman or Neoclassical styles. The best examples of these styles were the buildings of New Delhi designed by Edwin Lutyens and Herbert Mark Baker. It's commonly referred to as the Rome of Hindustan. This phase contains the following characteristics. The structures were unremarkable and without any distinguishing traits. It was a mashup of all architectural styles, resulting in a style that was crowded and limited the area for creative expression. Because of the composite character of the buildings, simplicity, modernism, and usability were severely armed. A special emphasis was placed on circular structures. The usage of Eastern themes to realize Western architectural styles was overdone. During this time, the notion of upturned dome was developed, as seen on the dome or as seen as the top of the Supreme Court and the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Look at the Supreme Court and the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Indo-Sasanic movement. At the end of the Victorian era, India entered the era of national awakening and movement. The architecture represented the character of the time, a combination of imperial and national urges. It was this urge that led to the movement of Indo-Sasanic. This movement drew elements from the indigenous and Indo-Islamic architecture and combined it with the Gothic revival and neoclassical styles favored in Victorian England. So let's see some of the salient features of this form of architectural style. The first one, bulbous domes. It is one of the most characteristic feature of Indo-Sasanic buildings. The bulbous dome is a hemispherical structure which evolved from arch, usually forming a ceiling or roof. The dome is considered as a symbolic representation of the vault of the heaven. Some of the examples with bulbous domes are Egmore Railway Station in Chennai Museum. This is the one, the Egmore Railway Station. The next is the overhanging eaves or the shadja, which is shown in the image. It's a protruding structure which provides protection for the lower walls. This feature was common in Mughal architecture. Example, the tomb of Salim Chishti in Fatehpur Sikri, India. This is the one. This feature became part of the Indo-Sasanic architecture during the 19th and 20th century. Example, Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus and the Rashtrapati Bhavan. The vaulted roof as seen in the image. They are the ceilings with intersecting arches. These roofs can be seen in mausoleum which was built during the Islamic period. However, this feature was adopted by the British into the monuments they built during their time, example the Saint Matthias Church of Chennai. Chhatris are an elevated dome-shaped pavilions used as an element in the Indian architecture. The word Chhatri is also referred to the small pavilions that mark the corners roof of entrance of a major building. These pavilions are purely decorative and have no utility, but they are a classic folly which represents the status and wealth. Example, the tomb of Umayun. This feature can also be seen in Indo-Sasanic style, that is the Rashtrapati Bhavan as an example. The minarets is a tall spire with a conical or onion-shaped crown. Minarets are either freestanding or taller than associated sport. The basic form of a minaret includes a base, shaft, and gallery. In Chennai, the Senate is the best example of Indo-Sasanic architecture with minarets. Look at the pavilion. It refers to the subsidiary building that is positioned separately or as an attachment to a main building. Palaces or other large houses may have one or more subsidiary pavilions that are either freestanding or connected by covered walkways in the buildings of Mughal architecture. These pavilions can be found in the forts, palaces of British architecture in Indo-Sasanic style. Cusped arches. The cusp in architecture is the intersections of lobed or scalloped forms, particularly in arches, cusped arches, and tracery of the ornamental stonework. The monumental cusped arch had become the standard Mughal style component by the end of 17th century. The British builders also used the cusped shaped arch universally and frequently enriched it with representations of leaves, flowers, or even human heads at the tip. Chennai Corporation Building, Rashtrapati Bhavan, Chhatrapati Shivaji Terminus are some of the examples. So to conclude, the result we can observe that art and architecture have had a distinctive expression in the lives and leisure of the people of India from prehistoric times. Greeks, Arabs, Persians, and Europeans all added to the existing traditions in their own unique ways, resulting in the magnificent potpourri of Indian art and architecture. Natural and alternative materials such as bamboo, wood, stone, brick, mud, and clay are increasingly being used in modern Indian construction. Contemporary Indian sensibility is a broad category that encompasses the work of young architects in India. Thank you so much. Please like and share our videos and subscribe to our channel for more videos. And please leave your comments in the comment box. Thank you and have a great day.